So at the end of chapter 7, Daniel was confused by the dream. So if you're confused at the end of chapter 7, we're going to go through it again in chapter 8. It's a little bit different dream. The same characters in place, the same kingdoms we're going to talk about. And Jesus wins at the end still. And we go through it again in chapter 8. The end of chapter 8, Daniel's still going to be shaken up by this whole thing. So if that's your state of mind when you do this, stay with it if you want to understand it. You'll get it if you stay with it. So now we're going along again. We're in more of the visions of Daniel. So before Daniel was interpreting everybody else's visions, now he's having his own, and angels are helping him out, trying to help him with what they mean. So verses 1 through 3. Chapter 8. In the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared to me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw, that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river Ulai. Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before me the river a ram, which had two horns. The two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher one came up last. So in the third year reign of year Belshazzar, Daniel has a dream. So Daniel chapter 7, that was the first year of Belshazzar. Now this is the third year. He's got another dream. Now he's in the capital of the Medes and the Persians. So that's in modern day Iran. He's over by the Persian Gulf now when he sees this vision. Verse 4, I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will and became great. I'm going to hold off my commentary on what these beasts are because that was confusing last time. I'm going to try and wait till the end here. Verses 5 through 8. And as I was considering, behold, a he goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and he touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between its eyes. And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and he ran unto him in fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground, and stamped on him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came the four notable winds toward the four winds of heaven. Verses 9 through 14. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceedingly great, towards the south, toward the east, and toward the pleasant land, which be Israel. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yes, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, that would be Jesus, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. That's the temple in Jerusalem. And a host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. So the Antichrist is given an army. And then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall it be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? And he said unto me, Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. That's the temple in Jerusalem. So verses 15 through 19, it came to pass when I, even Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man, and I heard a man's voice between the banks of the Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man understand the vision. So Daniel still doesn't understand. He didn't understand the first one. He doesn't understand this one. So he came near where I stood. And when he came, I was afraid and fell upon my face. But he said unto me, Understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. So this vision is for the time of the end of Gentile rule. Now, as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground. But he touched me and set me upright. And he said, Behold, I will make you know what shall be in the last end of the indignation. For at the time appointed, the end will be. Again, clarifying this is for the time when God's going to reign. So that's the vision. The angels kind of stepping in there to say, I'm gonna let you know what's gonna happen. And Daniel's just dumbfounded. First of all, he's afraid of the angel, and he's just down on the ground, face first, and he can't even look at this angel. These angels, when they come, they say, "Do not be afraid." It's usually the first thing they say because they're scary beings when they show up in their glory. But now this angel is going to show Daniel what the interpretation of the vision is. So just like Daniel was shown the visions from God on when the Gentile kings were dreaming, now Daniel's having a dream and he's going to be shown the interpretation of his own dream. So verse 20 through, well, I'm just going to read the interpretation of the dream, 20 through 26. The ram which you saw having the two horns are the kings of Media and Persia, and the rough goat, well, that would be the area of Iran. The rough goat is the king of Greece, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. That'd be Alexander the Great. Now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. So the four generals are going to take charge of Alexander's empire. In the latter time of their kingdom, so this kingdom is going to have two times, one back in around the time of Alexander the Great and one just before Jesus comes. In the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. So in Proverbs 1:6, dark sentences are proverbs. So he's going to understand these riddles and sayings. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. So he's going to have this supernatural power. He's going to be, Satan is going to instill power in him. And he shall destroy wonderfully. That doesn't mean it's going to be a good thing. It's just people are going to be in awe about the destruction. And shall prosper and practice and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. So he's going to take over the whole earth, and Christians are not immune. And through his policy also shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. So he's going to be deceitful. He's going to say, yeah, well, I had to kill them to bring peace. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes. So here in the book of Daniel, wherever the term prince is used, that's a spiritual power. So the prince of princes, that's Jesus. But this Antichrist will be broken without hands, so God's going to kill him. 26, and the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. Wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be many days. So again, this vision is for the time of the end. But actually what we're going to see is part of it happened during this kingdom has two parts. Part of it pertains to the first part. Part of it is like the last part. It all intermingles, making it really hard to understand. And in verse 27, we'll finish out the chapter. And I, Daniel, fainted and was sick certain days. Afterward I rose up and did the king's business, and I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it. So at this point, we're going to go through this vision for the third time, and Daniel doesn't understand it. If you don't understand it, Daniel was one of the wisest men in the world. We're going to go through it again. Please don't be disheartened if you don't understand what's going on at this point. But I'm gonna muddle through it the best I can. So I'm gonna go back to these charts and show where we are in this vision in chapter 8. So we're at Daniel chapter 8. We didn't start with Babylon at this time. He starts with the Medes and the Persians. So what he sees is a ram with two horns. One horn is higher than the other. Just like the bear had a high side, the Persians became the stronger than the Medians and took over that kingdom. Then there's a he-goat, this notable horn. That's Alexander the Great. This is when the Greek kingdom takes over from the Medes and the Persians. We saw him like fly. He didn't really fly, but his armies were fast. So they were described as a leopard. So he comes from the west to the east, and he takes on the Medes and the Persians and defeats them. So these horns are broken. That kingdom's gone. Alexander now has charge of the world. Alexander, at the height of his power, he's disappointed. He's got no more worlds to conquer. So he just sits around and drinks and just drinks himself to death. Gets some disease, and he's dead at a young age. He's got no son. So he's got four generals. Those four generals, the four wings here, they now become four kings. Daniel could care less about two of the kings, but two of them are important. So especially this king of the north. And there's going to be an example of him in this time, but there's also going to be an example of him after this new Roman Empire comes up. So this king of the north, he's got to have two different time periods. And both those things are mentioned. So he keeps saying it's for the time of the end. And although it is, parts of it took place at this time. So we knew this was the example that was being set. So when God's going to show us something, he gives us an example first, and then so we know what's going to come. So Antiochus Epiphanes was the Antichrist of this time. And there's going to be another one, another Antichrist thing that character that just hates the Jews and wants to wipe them out, wants to wipe out all Christians. He's going to rise up against the Prince of Princes, which is Jesus, the Son of Man, the Stone Mountain, and these other two chapters. Again, same stuff's going on. So this is here. So the 2,300 days and the sacrifice and all that. So the Jews sacrificed in their temple. They had a twice daily lamb sacrifice. During the time when Antiochus Epiphanes took over, he stopped the sacrifice. He wanted to do away with anything that was Jewish. So if you circumcised your children, you were made an example of, and they would kill you eventually and kill your children. Didn't want any of the law of the Jews to be there. So he did that. He took away the sacrifice, and then there was a guy, can't think of his name, Matthias the Hammer, something like Maccabees. So the Maccabees arose, and they revolted against this Greek king that's from Seleucia, the area of Syria. Back here, again, this is a past thing when the Maccabees happened. And for 23 days, 2,300 days, that sacrifice was taken away, but then it was restored. And we have a Jewish feast that is still held. So while we have Christmas, the Jews have, it's called the Feast of the Dedication. It's called Hanukkah to us today. So they had enough oil to light the candles in the sanctuary for just a day, but it lasted like 8 days until they could get more oil. So that's this feast that happened. And then the temple was restored. They were able to have these sacrifices again. So there was a pastime during Antiochus Epiphanes. He was in charge of the Greek kingdom. But in the future, there's going to be a new Roman Empire that this Antichrist from an area of the Greek king of the north. So from Syria, he's going to take over. And he's going to speak against God. He's going to hate the Jews, going to hate the Christians. He's even going to make war against Jesus when he comes. That's going to be a bad decision. He's going to be killed. Jesus is going to take him out, and there's going to be a great slaughter in the land. And we read about that in the book of Revelation. You know, when the armies gather at Armageddon, God takes them out. That's what's going to happen when he makes war against Jesus. Same story, same story. It just happens. If you haven't got it yet, Daniel 11. We're going to go through things one more time.